under martial law. Rock and roll and cola wars. I can't take it anymore.
Hello, and welcome to Of the People, our PM edition. No, this is not after hours, so we are going to have to behave. But starting off, Vive la France, or translation, is France still French? So, as everyone knows, or most people know, France had an election, second round, and they would have you believe that the National Rally Party, Marine Le Pen's party, lost. What they're not telling you is over 2022, they increased their seats by 60%, and they were they won the highest plurality. No one won a majority, and let me make sure I got my numbers right here. So the National Rally Party won 142 seats, up from 89. The NFP, or National Popular Front Party, went from 131 to 178. And Macron's party lost 40% of their seats, from 245 to 150. But the majority of the population, 37.4%, voted for the National Rally Party. But the media would have you think that they lost. They didn't lose. It still continues the trend of moving right. But the real question is so supposedly the NFP won. This is what victory looks like in France. Let's roll the tape on this one. Okay, so that's when they win. Now, this wasn't just lighting off fireworks for celebration. This was looting, vandalism. Think of the mostly peaceful summer of 2020 of Black Lives Matter in the United States, and you get the idea. These are the winners. But who are the winners, so to speak? The National Popular Front is made up of four parties: the Green Party, the Communist Party, the Socialist Party, and something called France Unbowed. Use your imagination, you can figure that one out, right? So these are the people. The extreme left won. The extreme right certainly had the most votes, which means it's in the non-urban, right? It's like this country. And the loser was Macron, or Macronism, the center of all of this. But it really raises a lot of questions for France, for the world, and certainly for the United States as well. You're going to have a minority government. No one has the majority. It's going to be frozen out. And where goes France? Because when you look at all of this, there are really three parties or three voting blocks that cause the left to win. First is the anarchists and Antifa. The second are the communists, and you can call it communist or socialist. And the third are the Islamists. Let's roll the other tape. This was what you saw in downtown Paris after the elections. Pay close attention to this one. And I defy anybody to look at that and find anything other than a Palestinian or Lebanese flag in there. That's now Paris, right? Muslim population makes up about 10%, and no, not all Muslims are bad. We're not saying that. But the demographics have changed, and therefore the politics have changed. You're going to see Starmer, who's the new prime minister, Keir Starmer, in England, same thing, where they're going to revoke the ban on arresting Netanyahu. They're going to declare a Palestinian state. So the demographics have changed, but it still comes down to borders, language, culture. The same issues we've talked about, right? Thank you, Michael Savage. I don't claim to have come up with that, right? The same thing. The two issues are immigration and national identity. And that's what's going to play out. You're going to see instability. You're still seeing a hard move to the right, right? And they're desperate to call it a victory. But I got news for you. France, liberty, equality, and fraternity, right? Freedom, equality, and brotherhood is about to move over to Sharia law and la guillotine. That's what you will now see coming out of France. But don't let anybody kid yourself. The movement is still to the right. The movement is still towards nationalism. We'll talk about that a little later. And that's the monologue.
Hello.
And
Robert.
there you go. You know, the thing is...
Robert.
Ericka?
I'm telling you.
Can I get away with one? Ericka? Look, the thing is, when the violence was disturbing to me, but to see a sea of Palestinian flags, right, and a sea of Middle Eastern flags, because is France still French? I mean, that's the question to me, because what the lessons of the election in France are, right? France is noted for its human rights. You know, it is diametrically opposed to Sharia law, right? There is Sharia law that governs in certain arrondissements now that are sort of no-fly zones for the police, right?
Well, and
clearly,
it's not just France, right? I mean, England is they have an Islamic prime minister. Isn't like what just there was something big that just happened there. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Keir Starmer the Labour Party just whooped ass on Sunak's party, the Conservative, the Tories. Farage wins office, right? You know, Nigel Farage, who's sort of the father of, or the driving force of Brexit, right? This whole, you know, new populism. But this is such a hard move to the left, and supposedly Starmer, and I want to stay on France and not England, but supposedly Starmer, you know, has removed all the anti-Semitism of Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party when he was the head of the party. But look at who he's appointing, and he's going to be pressured and probably will try to declare, and this will be England, a Palestinian state. But let's go back to France. Here's the lesson. Here's the lesson to me. The lesson is the middle lost. There is no more middle, right? Yeah. You're either extreme left or you're extreme or far right, whatever they call it, right? And by the way, if you're extreme left, even moderate right is extreme. It's far right for you, right? That's it's the far right.
Yeah.
Well, it's only far is all a relative term. It's far from where you guys are because you guys are in the loony bin on the left side. But there's no middle here anymore.
It's true. And look at what they gave up. They gave up their whole national identity. When this is what's interesting is we can see what happens with a massive influx of illegal immigrants on a smaller country, right? So France, all these European countries are basically like the size of a state in the United States. And we have watched a demographic change as they've allowed just unfettered immigration. Oh, well, we need people who will come work because French people are lazy and they don't want to have jobs. And they say the same thing about Americans. And that's the excuse. And now what is a French person anymore? What does it mean to be French?
Well, and that's really the question. So in a country that prides itself on its language as one of the, right? Borders, language, culture. Well, clearly there are no borders there either based on the immigration. And you go to like Marseille is an Islamic basically city, right? There are other places in France. And that look, again, let's not try to be xenophobic here, right? Not all people who are Muslim are bad. We're not all of anybody's bad. We're just talking about culture. We're talking about is France still French? And I would argue that it's not. Right? Because one of the driving political forces now that brought the left, quote unquote, to power, and let's be clear, no one has a governing majority. It will be months before there is a minority government as a governing majority. Macron asked forget his name, the prime minister to stay on, right? And the last time that the socialists governed, it was, if you remember the name, Francois Hollande.
Yep.
He was so unpopular in 2017, he didn't even run for re-election. Right? So, again, Antifa, the communists, and you can call them socialists, you can call them the Green Party, or you can call them France Unbowed. They're all the same, you know, it's whatever. Don't even start me on that one. Are we at after hours yet? Not yet.
I know. We'll have to save that one because I was just going to say something else that will get us in trouble. I'll save it.
You know, no more community guideline strikes, will you please? You know,
please.
Don't do that. So there is no middle anymore. But here's the other thing. for the people who voted for the National Rally Party, right? Proud to be French. When did it become bad to love your country, right? Because really, what's nationalism? Nationalism is being politicized to say, well, you're xenophobic, you're nationalist, and now they're putting that far right label, right? Nationalism. Remember we talked about it, and even here.
I mean, the evidence, even in our conversation, you said, well, let's be careful not to sound xenophobic, and it's like, well, but that's the whole thing. People are so afraid to sound xenophobic that it's not xenophobic to say, I want my country to be my country. I want my culture to stay my culture. And and the reality that people don't seem to want to acknowledge is that if you have a majority Muslim country, Sharia law, there's no separation of church and state in Islamic law. In Islam, that they're supposed to be one in their culture based on their religion.
You're 100% correct, but women's rights, non-existent. Gay, lesbian, LGBTQ, and whatever other letters I'm missing, non-existent. Right?
No,
we've talked about the whole Queers for Palestine. Try that on for size, and I don't know, in Qatar, and see how that works for you, right?
Or even in that town in France that you said is
Marseille.
Majority Muslim, Marseille.
Yeah, Marseille.
Yeah.
Marseille. So, but here's the other thing on nationalism that I think is important. In this country, we've seen that they weaponize anything that could be patriotic or anything that could be love of country.
Yes.
So
correct.
First, they went after, and the whole term nationalism is being trying to make them radioactive. If you remember, we started with a white nationalism or white supremacy nationalism, and that didn't quite click. Then they went after Christianity, right? That they went after Christian nationalism. That's a bad thing. Then they went after, that didn't quite click either, right?
Well, you Jesus freaks, you get out of here.
Right. Then they went after conservative nationalism. Now the latest, and this connects to France. I don't know. Do we have the picture from MSNBC? Joe, the Morning Joe, the Scarborough Show. Pull that one up for everybody, because for those who are listening to the podcast, because the new term, and it's still with nationalism, they've now come up with the new boogeyman is, are you ready for it? Far right nationalism. That's the new one. It was on 2 days ago on the news. You saw on the Chiron on MSNBC. They had Biden on, who was trying to do damage control. We'll talk about done in a little bit. But it's like the threat of far right nationalism. So my question, Ericka, when did love of country, when did love of a way of life that you grew up with become bad?
I know this. I know the answer to this. We covered this in our show. It was in the 70s during the... It wasn't a trick question. No, wasn't it the Reagan administration that we covered that on the show? There was some report that was if you're a Christian, you're a threat to America.
Excuse me. Ronald Reagan was elected in 1980, and the reason I know that is because I was in university at the time.
Oh, okay.
It was in Montreal. It was a big deal. And notice the other thing that happened. Ronald Reagan gets elected. I mean, the hostages in Iran were held for over a year. What were they released 5 days? After he got sworn in or before he got sworn in, because they knew that there were going to be inbound missiles coming if they didn't release the hostages, right? Proving another point, of course, which is what? Weakness breeds aggression, and strength peace through strength, right? Those are two truisms. If you're weak, you breed aggression in others. If you are strong, you will have peace through that strength. It's that simple.
Well, and I think
that complicated.
So when do you remember what I'm talking about? We covered that a few months ago, or last year sometime, maybe it was, about what was that?
Yeah. There was a document in the State Department. No, I'm sorry. It was the Department of Justice that issued a document, and I want to say it was during the Carter era, which would have been 76 to 80, right? Because
yes,
right, it was 76 to 80, which was Carter, because Nixon was 68 to 72, and then 72 to 76. Albeit he didn't make it to 76, right? He made it.
Yeah.
I mean, he resigned after Watergate. Gerald Ford becomes president. That kind of thing, right? So between 76 to 80, the Department of Justice issued their first statement that there was a concern about the rise of, I don't know if, did they use the word Christian nationalism? But religious.
It was like anybody who basically was patriotic. It was like religious people,
right.
People who, I can't remember what the list of the things was, but being Christian was one of them. Being conservative was another. It was basically like anybody that we're friends with was on the list.
You mean I'm on a list because you and I are friends? Wait a minute. So
we're definitely on a list. Oh yeah, we're definitely on a list.
Being friends with you puts me on a list. Well, okay.
For sure.
Well, then we're not friends anymore. I don't want to be on anybody's list. Come on.
Yeah, but you're also friends with Jay the Shepherd. That's going to put you on a list. At least.
But he's a shepherd. He's leading his flock, right? Isn't that what he's a shepherd?
He's hated by a lot of people.
So what you're really telling me is
funny.
So the shepherd, you're telling me that Jay the shepherd who's leading the flock should get the flock out of here, right? Is that what you're telling me?
Speaking of getting the flock out of here, we're going to take a quick break and come back for the next segment.
This is the whole night. I like this whole night thing.
Oh my goodness, this is so funny. All right, you guys, we are going to take a quick break to check out any updates on the Israel Appreciation Day. All right, hang in there.
Why Israel Appreciation Day? Because no one is telling the Israel story about why Israel's existence is so important, not just as a Jewish state and not just as an ally of the United States, but for all the positive achievements Israel has contributed to the world in science, technology, medicine, human rights, religious freedoms, rule of law, democracy, and so on. We need to start winning the public relations information war and change the narrative, especially among our younger generations. We need to get the information out there and arm those people who understand the seminal importance of Israel to the world. And being the Jewish homeland doesn't begin to tell that story of why Israel is so important. It's something we all can come together on, and honestly, it's something we all must come together on. It is imperative the general public understands the nature of the very special relationship between Israel and the United States and Israel's importance to the world. So please join us on September 18th in Washington, D.C. as we celebrate Israel Appreciation Day. You'll also be able to find us live on all the streaming channels, including Roku, Apple TV, Dish Network, and others. Because never again is now. And never again is now. We see more and more examples of that. So, folks, IsraelAppreciationDay.com. It's going to be streamed and beamed. So if you can't be there, tune in. It'll be entertaining. It'll be fast-paced. And it really is going to talk about all the other aspects of Israel that no one talks about, whether it's human rights or freedom of religion or freedom of expression, capitalism, democracy, the medical and technological advances, all the good work that Israel does around the world that no one knows about. Right? Tune in September 18th.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And there's going to be a lot of...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Are you stepping on me again?
Yes, dang it. I just wanted to make sure everybody knows it's going to be on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, Samsung TV Plus, Dish Network, all over the places.
It's and more to come as we're signing up more people to carry the show. But I want to go back to France because we were talking about elections, and I want to segue back to elections here. We have an election coming up. There's now something being put forward.
The Joe Scarborough video is loaded if you want to come back to it. So keep going.
Let's show the Joe Scarborough video real quick. We're talking about nationalism because it pertains to this. Show them this video or this, not the video. I just want the shot.
Yes, exactly.
I'll give you one of those.
The American public is not going to move away from me as an average voter. And again,
The American public's already moved away from you, whether they're average voters or not, because now Joe Biden's trying to make this whole argument that the only ones who want him out are the elitists in the Democratic Party. What a crock of crap. But if you noticed on the bottom, it said it was referencing far-right nationalism, right? So love of country. First of all, I mean, to the people who put that up, I mean, far-right nationalism is a bit of a redundancy, don't you think? Because if you're nationalistic, you're far right to begin with, according to those knuckleheads. So, but now we have to call it far right. I mean, they're going to try an expression until it sticks. But let's talk about this election with Biden, because now we have, we went from Biden Build Back Better to Biden Blitz Back Better, because now they want to get rid of him. So did you see what
the Blitz primary.
The Blitz primary. So for the folks who don't understand the Blitz primary, basically they should call it a sprint primary, because he's already got the nomination locked up. They want him to voluntarily step down. They're going to run a 30-day campaign where everyone has to play nice in the sandbox and can't say bad things about each other. Oh, and we're going to pass over Kamala Harris, right? So hang on. Here's the thing. So Biden would step down as the Democratic nominee in mid-July. 6 candidates who received the most votes from the delegates, the elites, by the way. The delegates are the elites. Let's translate that for everybody. All the candidates pledged to run a positive-only campaign. Can you imagine the knives that are going to come out? So we're going to run and by the way, I may not stab you with a knife, but all my surrogates and all my, the super, okay, we're going to play nice in the sandbox.
Whatever. And then
there's going to be ranked choice voting. Come on.
Where's my popcorn? Where's my popcorn? Does it get any better
than this? But here are the 2 things I love the best. The Blitz primary would involve weekly forums with each candidate moderated by a cultural icon, and they reference 3: Michelle Obama, Oprah, or Taylor Swift. Wait, and then the nominee will be, quote, unveiled on stage with Biden, Obama, and Clinton all sort of making the handoff to the nomination. So here's the question.
Not Kamala. But not.
Well, look, on a very serious note, the real question becomes, if they pass over Kamala Harris, if Biden steps down, and we're going to talk about that in a second, because I want your opinion. If Biden steps down and they do not allow Kamala Harris to be the nominee in one form or another, you got a problem in the Democratic Party, because the Clyburns of the world, the Congressional Black Caucus is going. I mean, and let's be clear. I think that Donald Trump will get on a proportionate basis, a historic number of black votes, when all is said and done. But the majority of the black votes are still going to be Democratic, because they're still in a Democratic plantation. And for whatever reason, they haven't figured out that, Democrats haven't really done really well for the black community. But, I mean, whatever.
So here's my question. Here's my question, Robert. So what I heard you say is that Biden is actually admitting there are elites in the Democratic Party.
Well, but he's senile, so no one's taking him seriously, right? Think about that. Trying to pin down a Democrat on a question like that is like Lucy in the football.
Like, we've been saying that crap, and then Biden is like, oh, it's the elitists. Oh, you mean the same people we've been complaining about that you said? Oh, well, I thought it just loved everybody.
It further confirms that he's senile, because he would never say that. I mean, come on. Even after all this dust up on the debate and all this stuff with George Stephanopoulos, and then he's still botching lines, and supposedly now, did you see the video that's all over Twitter? So Fox News reporter Peter Doocy basically said to whatever her name is, KJP. I mean, all this.
I call her Karen Jean Pear.
Yeah, that woman, the press secretary for the president, was asked. I think it was today, it might have been yesterday. It's all over the Twitter about, well, if Biden's only good between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m., which is pretty much what people have now put out there, what happens if there's a nuclear attack at like 10 o'clock? Is Mrs. Biden making that decision, or is Kamala Harris making that decision? Right? So Karen.
Dude. Karen Jean Pair.
So KJP doesn't answer, puts her head down, walks off, from the briefing room.
No.
So,
Can you try
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Lord Benjamin, see if you could find that video. I want to see that. Oh, wow.
It's all over Twitter. It's you can't make this stuff up, right? But here's the thing. I mean,
oh yeah, and oh my God, you were. It's just sort of hitting me what you said before that. So wait a second. If they ditch Kamala Harris, is the congressional are they going to lose the black vote? Are they going to lose the minority vote?
Well, I don't think they lose the minority vote. Look, the real risk really is, do they stay home, right? I still think that en masse, the black community, look, there are three pillars ostensibly to the, four really, to the Democrats' support. One is the union vote / teachers vote. Second is the, sort of the white woman, suburban housewife vote. And the third is the black vote, right? Those are the pillars upon which the Democratic Party has historically been built. You lose one of those pillars. Now, you can argue about the Hispanic vote, but I would argue that with family values being a driving force within the Hispanic community, that most of the Hispanic community is sort of their natural inclination is moderately right of center, right? Family values, those kinds of things. But if you pass over the first female and black female vice president candidate. Now, you do realize that Kamala Harris at one point claimed she was Indian.
Asian. She is. She is part Indian. That's her one of her parents is from India.
Okay. I just learned something. Thank you. Because I thought, so when I read that, just so to show you I don't know everything, because when I read that, I was thinking more like Pocahontas.
That's what she's. No,
Elizabeth Warren.
When she got elected AG of California, she was the first Asian AG of California.
Well, I guess we can reinvent ourselves. But at the end of the day, if they pass her over, there is an internal war within the Democratic Party that I don't think that they can overcome. But here's the question to you.
That means Democrats are sexist. Okay, what's the question? Okay, I'm ready.
Does Joe Biden step down before the election?
So here was my thing. This was my theory. Tell me what you think. My theory was they were going to pull a John Fetterman, right? That if he got him across the finish line,
what? Pull a Fetterman?
Senator,
I've never heard it. So is pulling a John Fetterman now a verb?
Yes, pulling a Fetterman. That's what we're calling it.
John Fetterman has been a staunch supporter of Israel. I didn't expect that out of him, but I have to. My hat's off to him. Let's keep going.
Well, yeah, and I'm not trying to hate. I'm not saying anything that is not something he would readily admit, probably. But there was talk when he was running that they didn't want to replace him as a candidate until after the election. They were like, if he can get through the election and anything bad happens, the governor can appoint a Democrat. But they didn't feel like they could replace the candidate midstream because of, it was like mid-election, blah, blah, blah. And so that's what I thought they were going to do with Biden. Like, if he can just get us across the finish line and he plots on, November 8th or whatever, the date, I don't remember election day this year, guys. Sorry. Then it will be fine.
I love when you use the Yiddish. Just putting that out there. Plots. I don't know about plots is, little malaprop there, but that's okay. I have a couple friends who are walking malaprops. You know who you are. But plots.
Oh, and we have the clip from KJP.
All right. You got to, so folks, you have to watch this. So this is Peter Doocy, Fox News reporter, White House, Fox's White House reporter, asking, is it Karen Pierre?
Karen Jean Pierre.
Karen Jean Pierre.
It's Karine Jean-Pierre.
Jean-Pierre. Oh, that's right, because it's
Jean-Pierre.
She's
French.
Très bien.
Yeah. Was she hating or something? Something.
Got it. Can we roll the tape? So watch this. And if there's any silence, it's because that's the part she's walking out of the room for those of you on the radio. Check this out.
8 p.m. So say that the Pentagon at some point picks up an incoming nuke. It's 11 p.m. Who do you call? The First Lady? Are you guys just not, since February, testing President Biden for Parkinson's or for dementia? Because if he gets a bad result, it's all over that day.
All right, thanks, everybody.
So, right? At least she had the common courtesy to not walk out mid-sentence, but right after she just, you saw that sort of sourpuss look on her face. But look, I'm not a big fan, but you want to talk about the definition of being in a no-win position? You're there to speak for the president, who doesn't speak very well for himself to begin with these days, right? And you're asking a question like that where, it's one of those things. So tell me, sir, when did you stop beating your wife, right? Because there's no good answer that doesn't incriminate you.
Look, here's the deal. She may be a very nice person in real life. Like,
and she may not be.
But I don't know how you go to work feeling good about yourself, having to lie to people every single day, every day. Oh, it was, what the definition of the word is, oh, wait, remember when Biden called for a woman who had died in a car accident? They were at some event and this congresswoman had been killed in a car accident. And he was like, oh, is so-and-so out there, Susan or whatever her name was? And they were asking him about it. And he was like, oh, and Karen Jean-Pierre was like, oh, she was top of mind. She was top of mind. I'm like, you're not even a good liar. You're not even a good liar.
The president went into Philadelphia and thanked Philadelphians for getting him across the finish line in some tough senatorial elections he had in Delaware back in the day. You didn't see that one either? He's in Philadelphia thanking them for helping him get across the finish line in his senatorial elections. Now, look, hey, this is Philadelphia. Maybe they do vote in Delaware elections, but I mean, who knows? But you just sit there and go,
they are Democrats after all.
Right. And Democrats stick together. But I just, look, the truth is, it's what I said about the debate. I take no pleasure in seeing my president compromised. I can disagree with him on policy, but this verges on elder abuse. Now, I don't think he steps back. By the way, the other thing he just said, I think it was on that Morning Joe interview, that he would only step down if God sent him a message. If God told him to. I'll step down if God told me to. It's in that interview you guys pulled up.
Yep, I heard that part.
Which begs the question, where's George Burns when you need him? Right? For those of you who are too old to remember, there's a movie. Oh, Morgan Freeman would work, and that would be a black God, right? Better than a white God, because
magical
because
Negro.
Jesus, magical Negro. Sprinkle water, watch him grow. I don't know. In any event, I know, but. So he says he's on Morning Joe with Mika and Joe Scarborough, right? And says that he'll step aside if God tells him to. I actually think he'll step aside if Barack Obama tells him to, which to most Democrats is God incarnate anyway, right? Because he is the savior.
Another magical Negro.
Another magical Negro. Just sprinkle water, watch him grow. And is that like a chia pet? Just kidding. My prediction still is they are going to, behind the scenes, force him to resign with the threat of Hunter going to jail, losing the family fortune. And, oh, by the way, if you step aside peacefully, we'll allow you to pardon your son on the way out.
Yep.
But it does beg the question, then who's the nominee? I mean, how do the knives not come out?
And that, dude, if they... your prediction, here's the deal. If they get rid of Kamala, what is going to be their excuse? Like, what are they going to say? Like, is she going to step down? What do you think is going to happen? You think it's going to be a coup? Do you think she's going to make up some excuse? Prediction time.
Look, I think
Robert predicts.
Look, I think that if Joe Biden steps down, because he has to voluntarily do that to trigger it. Now, you could argue that under the 25th Amendment that it's really the responsibility of Congress not to wait and if the president is not capable of holding office, it's not supposed to be an option. You're supposed to be forced to invoke the 25th Amendment. Speaker Johnson said it. They're not going to do it. They would never, remove their own, whatever. Having said that, if he steps down, they will open this up to some sort of primary system, Blitz or otherwise, or they're anointing Kamala, however it's correctly pronounced. One day someone will tell me, and go from there. Either way, it presents a problem for the Democrats. And while my instinct tells me that he steps down, which is what I just said, I don't know, you can make the argument he's just going to dig in and they're going to try to ride this storm out. But it's, break out the popcorn. It's just not good for the country. And that's my real concern.
Yeah.
It's not good for the country.
And that's what it is good for, though. And I will say this, I am very grateful for, is it's another opportunity to pants the media and Democrats, frankly. You guys have been lying to the American people this whole time. And if we said it, we're crazy right wingers. We just hate America. We're racist bigots, whatever. And it's like, no, dude, we can just see with our own two eyes what you guys can't see. And so anything that destroys the credibility of the media, I'm for. Anything that destroys the credibility of Democrats, I'm also for.
I look, it used to be that as Democrats and Republicans, we agreed on the goal, we disagreed on the way to get there. The journalists were neutral, and you were not supposed to know their politics. Both of those things have gone out the window. Similar to what happened in France, there's no middle anymore. There's no middle in this country either. Yes, there are independents. Yes, there are moderates. But majority of people, if you take the far right or you take the far left, and I'm using those in a pejorative sense, right?
Pejorative,
if you take sort of the right of center and the left of center, there's no middle anymore. And the problem is that everybody's fighting with each other, and it's a zero-sum game mentality of good versus evil in all of this. And so there is no middle. Therefore, there's no compromise. On top of which, how do you compromise with someone you don't know and you don't like?
Yes.
If I like you, we may disagree on things, but at least we can find common ground. If I don't like you, or you're the enemy, or that kind of thing, and to the left, especially the progressive left, we're evil. You are. I am.
Yep.
But it hurts the country. It hurts us all.
It does. But what doesn't is reading an awesome book by Dr. Bruce Abramson, The American Spirit, The Great Awakening. Let's hear more about that.
We are in a battle with today's progressive left for the heart and soul of America. Dr. Bruce Abramson's new book, American Spirit or Great Awakening, provides you with the evidence you need to push back against the left's new religion, wokeism, with its radical views on race, gender, sexuality, and climate. This new religion, which has captivated America's spiritually starved young, urban, credentialed, and professional elites, has a goal of replacing the Judeo-Christian values that America and our institutions were founded on. If you value our Constitution and all that has made America great, then you need to get your copy of Dr. Abramson's new book today. The American Spirit or Great Awakening can be found on Amazon.
The House, Congressman Chip Roy, puts forward a bill called the SAVE Act, right? The SAVE Act, let me get this right, is called Safeguard American Voters Eligibility Act, which basically would require state officials to verify citizenship and verify voter IDs.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
The Democrats en masse have come out against it, and it's the same trope that they use about disenfranchising black voters and making it unsafe. And the White House just came out with a statement, right, which basically said that the laws are already on the books and they're being enforced and they're working. And if you didn't make me close my tab, I could have opened one of the ones I wanted to read here, but it's your fault. So the thing I don't understand is, and I do understand, but I say I don't, is that, so one of the things that they said that there's no, that the rules in place are already safeguarding the vote. I want you to pull up for everybody the map we have of the states that have voter IDs and the states that don't. And notice the ones that are blank. And we're going to come back to that because you know what they are. Let's show this to everybody.
Okay. Lord Redic, where would I find that?
That's the map.
Benjamin, where's the map?
Well, we don't. All right, so let's do this. Can I go through the states for everybody? Let's go through them.
Yeah.
Washington State, no voter ID law. Oregon, California, Nevada, New Mexico, Minnesota, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, and Maine. What do you think these guys have in common?
Democrats.
So, and the thing is, let's pull up the other thing. Here are all the things, ladies and gentlemen, that you need to show a voter ID for.
Okay,
right?
If this was the stuff you sent in Twitter, we did not pull anything from Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
What's that?
You want to apply for a bank loan, you need a voter ID. You want to apply for a credit card, you need to show identification. You want to get on an airplane, you need to show identification.
You want to rent a house or an apartment. You want to get on welfare.
Right.
Okay? Even if you think people are too poor and
there you go.
whatever.
The things that require valid ID. Hey, I told you had it.
Yeah.
Driving, boarding an airplane, doctor's office, applying for a job, pharmacy, bank transactions, applying
donating
to school,
blood, pawn shop.
Donating blood, buy a firearm, Social Security services. All right, you can pull it down, but we'll put it up at some point. But so why is it that the most sacred right, which is to cast a free vote, if you're a citizen, and of course we have no issues in the country because everyone's coming into the country legally, so that's okay because they're already following those laws.
Well, they're also letting illegal immigrants vote. So what does it matter? They don't care. They think it's fine that illegal immigrants can vote. I mean, literally in Vermont, they allow non-citizens to vote in local elections. But here's the thing. A lot of those ballots are the same. So what stops them from voting? Whatever. That's a whole other conversation. Point is, Vermont explicitly said people who are not citizens, who are, green card holders or whatever, refugees, are allowed to vote in local elections explicitly. They believe that anybody should get to vote regardless of whatever.
Just because you're here.
Correct.
Right. And again, remember something. We're only talking on the federal level. Each state, whether you like it or not, is entitled to make its own rules on statewide elections. But federal elections are dictated by the Constitution that only citizens can vote. Right? And only citizens can hold federal office. Those are the only two stipulations, really, when it comes to voting and office holding in the Constitution. Right? The Bill of Rights applies to everyone, whether you're a citizen or not. I mean, that's the way it was written. You may like it, you may not like it, but that's the way it was written. The thing that I take umbrage with is the White House just put out a statement, I believe it was yesterday, that basically said that the president's going to veto the SAVE bill because, number one, there are already laws in place that safeguard elections. Right? Okay, so in those states we just named that have no voter ID laws, would someone please tell me what the laws are in place in those specific states, federal or state, that protect election integrity and making sure that only citizens vote in federal elections? Somebody tell me that.
Well, and here's the thing, Robert. That's nonsense. That's also nonsense. What was it, HB1? The voting thing that they tried to pass, federalizing elections. That dude does not care about the integrity of elections or think that anything should be protected. That is nonsense. He's a liar. So don't.
Well, look. I don't want to get into the liar, liar, pants on fire game because I mean, if you're a Democrat, generally speaking, walks like a duck, talks like a duck. It's usually a duck. But, and I try to stay away from those kind of broad statements. But here, if you really want to be outraged, do you want to be outraged? So we're going to end this. I'm going to outrage you. So under the heading of giving absentee ballots a whole new meaning, so you don't have to show voter ID in the states, basically the staunch blue Democrat states.
Right.
They are vehemently opposed to voter ID. They are vehemently opposed to, vehemently opposed to purging the rolls. And by the way, the article that I'm reading this from, quote unquote, from the White House, despite numerous recounts, challenges in courts, and deep dives by conservative think tanks, there has been zero evidence of widespread fraud, which is not quite true, actually. Okay, but there's just in the courts, right? So at the end of the day, with all of this, you don't have to show voter ID, but the thing you can do in this country, did you know that the Biden administration made it okay? Iran just had an election. They opened polling stations to vote in the Iranian election in this country. So it gives absentee ballots a whole new meaning.
Wait,
you think I'm
what?
kidding? Biden allowing Iran's terrorist-sponsoring regime to hold voting in the U.S. The Biden administration recently allowed Iranian citizens to vote in the totalitarian regime's sham presidential elections from makeshift voting booths in a handful of U.S. hotels around the country. And let's be clear on what states we're talking about: Massachusetts, Arizona, California, Washington, New York, Nebraska, Texas, New Jersey, Ohio, Arizona, Chicago, which is not a state, Illinois, and Kansas.
Well, but why, though? Do we have that many Iranians here?
That's not the point. So, illegal immigrants
I don't understand.
can vote.
Why would you? Wait, I don't. Why would?
Yeah, are we having an
hold on.
Are we having an out of body experience yet? Yeah.
So my brain is having a. I'm having an overload in my brain, Robert. I'm sorry. Why are there polling places for elections in other countries? Okay, has that ever happened before? Has that happened for any other country? I'm made of questions right now.
Okay, so by the way, here's you want to talk about talking out of both sides of your mouth. When the Biden administration was confronted with this, first thing they said is, "Oh, well, it's been done before," which is their standard response. But here is the formal statement that was issued by the U.S. State Department spokesperson Patel said the following. In this context, foreign governments carrying out election-related activities in the U.S., they need to do so in a manner that is consistent with U.S. law and regulation, Patel said. We respect the rights of Iranian citizens and the diaspora protesting Iran's elections or choosing to participate in Iran's elections. And I will also just note that the Iranians have conducted this kind of activity in the United States before, so this is nothing new. And as have a number of other governments, especially in times that I've worked here as well. I sit here and go, first of all, what did he say? Second of all, the justification is, well, other people have done it. They've done it before, so... we have American hostages held by, and it's not funny, we have American hostages held by Hamas, which is basically a satellite of Iran, and you're letting the Iranian regime, but one's a reformer. Bullshit. Neither of those guys were a reformer. And number two, the Ayatollah picks it anyways. It's a symbolic election. It doesn't matter. Right? So you're letting a terrorist country that is holding American hostages open polling stations in this country to vote for a presidential election in Iran that doesn't matter because the Ayatollah picks the winner picks the president anyway. And no one's calling him out on it. No one. That's the stuff that makes me crazy.
What was the point? Does it say what the actual point was? Why? Why? Are we, especially after we've given them, billions of dollars, and I say it was their money, whatever. We unfroze a bunch of their money, which they then turned around and used to help sponsor terror. Who was this for? Are we trying to if it was anti-Iran, then why are we giving them money and trying to get into deals with them? And then I don't know, guys. I just feel like I don't understand why.
Iran's regime announced the polling locations through its representative in the U.S., the Pakistani embassy in Washington, D.C. A link is published that lists the voting locations in more than 30 U.S. cities. The information about voting was released on each Friday, ostensibly to prevent organized demonstrations against the Iranian regime. So you have this one woman, by the way, God bless her, in Linwood, Washington, who was got accosted by one of the security guards, basically said, look, I left Iran about 2 decades ago, leaving behind my family, my friends, my hometown, the neighborhood I grew up in, all because I could not live under a regime that told me what to wear, what to say, what to do, what to see, and what to unsee. A regime that would kill and torture its own people to suppress any opposing voices. So when I learned that there were voting stations for Iran for the regime which kills, rapes, and tortures my brothers and sisters in the home state, I was shocked. So am I, ladies and gentlemen. So the Biden administration doesn't care who votes in U.S. elections, but the Biden administration wants to make it easier for y'all to vote in Iranian elections. That's...
I can't...
Right? Come on. What am I missing?
Down. I had to sit down.
Oh,
I can't. It's just like, oh, we're going to defend the Ukrainian border, but we're not going to defend our own. We're going to not defend our own elections, but we're going to defend Iran's. It's
right.
I feel gaslit. Like I'm.
You know what I feel like? I feel like I'm a character in Alice in Wonderland, up the down staircase, and I'm waiting for the white rabbit to come up with looking at his watch, and then running back into the woods. Right? I mean, to me, it's an out-of-body experience. But look, and I know we're not going to get to it on this show because I know we're sort of running out of time here. They just discovered
we've actually got 7 minutes left.
Ooh, even better. Can we go on to a new topic then?
Let's do it.
New Cold War. So here's the other thing that the Biden administration is not telling you about. They just discovered that there satellite images, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that there is a spy base in Cuba, 90 miles from the U.S. shore, for China. Now they're saying China and Cuba, but under the heading of sort of like big brother, little brother, you know who the dominant player is in this relationship. So if there is a combined Chinese Cuban spy station in Cuba, who do you think's running that operation?
Yeah, give me an all the way break that it's the China. Whatever. This is, you guys, I mean, we got the spy balloons flying across the country. They're 90 miles off the coast. They've got satellite stations.
There's 4 different things. Look around the country where China or Chinese-owned companies have bought farmland or land, and they're always around military bases. Then you look at the fentanyl that's coming across the border. Then you look at, hey, you want to know where all the Chinese nationals are now coming from across the border? They're coming from Cuba into Central America up through the southern U.S. border. Makes sense now, doesn't it?
Yep.
Now, can I prove it? No, I can't prove it. But, again, you try to make sense of all of this. And then you look at the fact that the surveillance balloon, as you rightly point out. And now you find, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, it is the Center for Strategic and International Studies released the images that the Chinese activity, it's obviously shrouded in secrecy, but that there's several images of an advanced spy base operated by China in Cuba. But, and by the way, like the Iranian election, you know what the State Department's response is?
No comment.
Well, there have been other bases there too. Right? Like it's been there before. Like this is nothing new. So Iranian voting in the United States on U.S. soil, there's nothing new. It's the same argument they made. Hang on, I got to find you the response. I read it and I was like, it's amazing to me, that they're using Cuban spaces to observe offshore U.S. military training and whatnot. And the only thing that the administration said is that, well, this is nothing new. What kind of response is that?
Wow.
Oh, there's a picture.
I mean, That's just them obfuscating. Like, oh, you know, what ifs? Oh, the spy balloon, no big deal. Don't worry. It's not working. We scrambled it. Oh, don't mind all the Chinese nationals who have infiltrated all of the colleges and are stealing our intellectual property and doing a bunch of other crazy stuff. Oh, don't worry about the secret police stations.
By the way, the same guy, Patel, right? Here's his statement, right? Spokesman says the following: I'm not going to comment or confirm or get into the specifics of that report, right? And that's the report, ladies and gentlemen, which is the CSIS report, right? Or is it CSIS? Let me get it right. Yeah, CSIS report. I'm not going to comment on it, but what I can say is that we remain confident that the United States is going to be able to meet our security commitment at home and in the region. Great. PRC, People's Republic of China. PRC's activities in Cuba have been going on for decades. And we know that the PRC is going to keep trying to enhance its presence in Cuba, and the United States is going to keep working to disrupt it. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the people who are supposed to be keeping you safe. Wow. And on a very serious look, we joke around, we have a lot of fun here, but on a very serious note, does anybody read that report, or does anybody think that Iranians voting, and I'm not saying that people here are bad people, but if you're here, what are you doing voting in the Iranian election? Now, those are going to argue, well, but then they can elect a moderate. No, because we already know that the Ayatollah Khamenei picks the president.
Yeah.
So the same people who were lying to you about Biden's condition for how long? Who are now telling you, oh, don't worry about the elections, the voting on U.S. soil for Iran because it's been done before. And, Cuba's, China's been in Cuba for a long time. Don't worry about that either. But don't worry, we have it under control. Any of you guys feeling better now?
No. Look at this. Look at this map, Robert. This is where the spy stations are confirmed. Right. Look at, that's Florida. Y'all, that's Florida. Right there. For those of you listening on the podcast or listening on the radio, it looks like you can swim there, okay?
Well, actually, look, 90 miles, I don't know if I could swim it, but some people could.
I couldn't,
but look, at the end of the day, have you ever been to Key West? I've been to Key West. You can see Cuba. It's 90 miles, right? It's 90 miles. So you're telling me, and again, this is China. Again, weakness breeds aggression. We have a weak president. China's taking advantage of it. They opened an embassy in the Bahamas. Our Southern Command is down in that area, right? SOCOM.
Yep, right there.
As opposed to CENTCOM, right? Is down there. And we are being maybe not surrounded, but we're being shadowed by communist China. And what are we doing about it? Oh, don't worry about it. We have it under control. It's okay. And that's my concern. I mean, these guys are just lying to us. They're lying to us about the president's condition. They're lying to us about, the rationale and the reason about Iranian voting on U.S. soil in an Iranian election. They were lying to you about, where the money went in Iran. They're lying to you about the Palestinian situation and where they're getting their information. They're lying to you that they're always going to protect Israel's right to defend itself, which they clearly have not. They've been holding weapons, right? They're lying to you about China. And that's what bothers. I mean, look, I'm a big boy. I can handle the truth. Let's have a conversation about it. But where is the integrity in any of this? This is about America. Look, again, we can disagree. Fine. Hopefully you disagree civilly. I get it. But this is the stuff that makes me crazy.
Mm-hmm. It is crazy making, and it's going to make you crazy until we talk about all of this nonsense again next week. Honestly, the news cycle is moving so quickly. You can barely
talk about next week? Next week,
what's next week?
Next week, ladies and gentlemen, our special guest, Chris Widener from the Widener Group, one of the top 50 speakers in the world, motivational speaker. He is he is on fire, and he is, people say that I'm a smart guy. He's a smart guy. He's going to come. He's part of Israel Appreciation Day event. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about what's going on in the Catholic, Christian, evangelical communities. What's really going on? I mean, inside the country. Let's call it flyover country. Very excited to have with a special guest next week, Chris Widener, the Widener Group, WidenerGroup.com. Look them up and tune in next week, and it'll be an evening show, so it should be lots of fun.